Yep. So Adelaide and Fremantle are next, and
What a great
yeah,
finish to a
interesting.
game of footy.
Oh, very great finish. Fremantle were all over it. The first half absolutely dominated. Third quarter, I think Adelaide came out kicked like 6 goals in a row. Looked really good. I'm just trying to have a look at. They did have an injury. McPherson, I think, had some hamstring awareness or hamstring tightness. Now he's a defender, so 307,000. Hinge looked really good. So Hinge is 180,000. Looked pretty good. Was on about 40 Supercoach at half time. Now I'm not sure, like, because with McPherson went down injured. Scholl was really interesting sub replacement. So he came on and Scholl got 108. So I don't know if
Mm.
the roles kind of switched a little bit there. I think Hinge looked pretty good in the first half, played up the ground a little bit more. And then because they have already said Hinge can play tall, he can play short. So McPherson being injured, I think, what is he? He's 187 centimeters. So McPherson probably around that, not obviously defender, but maybe a little bit more accountable. So they said, all right, well, I'm not sure exactly, but there could have been Hinge play more accountable. Shoal goes plays on the wing because he can play that sort of role, and Shoal just killed it. So the issue was Shoal was sub, which surprised some people, but now he played so well, he has to be in their side. And I think Hinge is still secure because of McPherson's hamstring tightness or hamstring injury, depending on what they get. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they line up. I think Hinge is still secure, but now his role might not be as good. So I guess we'll have to wait and see another week. But it does concern me a little, Swizz.
Yeah, the interesting thing, I had Shoal in drafts and I had to put him on the bench, and then bloody hell, he comes out and does that. So I really rate Shoal, especially in keeper leagues. I thought Hinge actually was really decent, especially that first half. Dawson started to find his feet more in the second half, so that kind of did change things, and they kind of did go through more with Dawson. And as you said, that role changed because
Well,
Shoal's
they
more
gave
that half.
Dawson kickouts defense. They put him in defense, and
Yeah,
he did not miss a target. He
yeah,
had kick out after kick out because Fremantle just couldn't hit the target to save their lives.
mm,
Fremantle 11 goals 17, like literally
mm,
shit.
yeah, exactly.
Like I think Lob as well just kept missing, and in that sort of was it the third or the fourth quarter, Dawson had not much impact in the first half at all. So they started to say, oh, like, do you move him back or do you just have confidence? Like, because how bad is it? If you move them and it's like you don't have faith in them or you don't give them time to settle and blah blah blah. Anyway, next point,
Yeah,
Dawson's there taking kickouts and
Yeah,
nailed it. Oh,
Hinge looked better on field than Jones, Malira, and Siglo anyway. So I think they surely got to back him in for now.
I nearly
Um,
got
so-
Miller. I had
yeah,
money to spare
oh,
because I was like,
freaking
oh,
hell.
well, once I saw like McGovern, I was like, okay,
Yeah,
well, hang on. So I was like, well, Cherry was off field. I was like, well, that's a bad pick. So I was like, oh, crap, I need more money for possibly, going for our mate Gibcus and McGovern. So I was like, I have to get rid of Steele now, and because I need money. And it's funny because I nearly picked Steele, but I went Cripps because I needed money. And then after all these other cheaper players, I was like, fuck, I can afford going. Once he was named, I could afford bringing in Miller, and lucky I didn't because I would have spent an extra 100,000 on Hinge and got less points. So, look, he was okay. Miller even got forward and I think kicked a goal. Like it just kind of backs up, I think, what someone said about his sample. Played a practice game or something rather and was playing forward a bit, which isn't good
no,
for that kind of role.
he's missed his
I,
opportunity. He
he
missed
did
it.
okay. So
Yeah, so but yeah,
yeah,
so
he didn't look great.
I didn't like him. Riley O did what he did. Benny Keys just keeps smashing on and that and looked better. But like Matt Crouch came in and did exactly what Matt Crouch does. But Benny Keys, if you wanted that point of difference, has just been such a good player at that. But yeah, and Dawson. The
Well,
funny
Ben
thing with
Keys didn't do much early though. He came
yeah,
and I
and then
think
built into it when
one
they
quarter, third quarter maybe just went absolutely
but when
ham.
they keep the 6 goals to none of that
He went
and just
big.
dominated. And
Shout out
as
to
I said,
Emperor
even
as well.
Dawson second half, but then you're not going to get a team kicking 17 behinds every week and have so much ball down there. But really, for Adelaide, there's only one person to really talk about, and that's the kid who kicked 5 goals, and the next Toby Green of the
Rochelle.
competition.
He
What
looked
a
good.
game!
He played very still deep forward though. The
Mm,
concerning part with for me was is that you had someone on the forward flank kind of get it on the wing, pushing towards forward flank, and then hit him in the pocket. So he looks damaging. He looks clean. He looks like he's got game smarts and game sense to be able to hit those goals. But you're not going to kick 5 goals every week. And I thought he was impressive enough. Now 118 is great. I'll take that in the cycle 100%, and I think he'll still do well. But I think the expectation has to be, hey, like he's not. I know he can get up the ground, but he spent quite a bit of the time in that forward 50 or in the pocket. Um, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see sort of how it progresses. Maybe as he gets better and a bit more, match through him, then they can push him up the ground a little bit. So I think he's definitely talented enough. If you don't have him, I think he's definitely someone that you probably should want to look at getting in. But if you had to prioritize between, say, him and a Martin, who would you be going over based on price points?
Martin and pretty well this is why because as awesome as that was with Rochelle, kicked the goal to get them started. Then he's kicked the next to put them back in the game. He's kicked the one to put them in front, and he's kicked another one to put them. I think that was maybe a goal up or something
I
like
think it
that.
was in
So
front. Yeah, yeah, goal up.
yeah,
Yep.
so he's kicked the 4 goals he's kicked, 3 of them were really important, and he's had 14 touches and 6 scoring shots. So if he's not getting hitting the scoreboard, he's not like that's when he touches the ball. Where Martin 27 touches showed he actually can get the ball, and that's the thing. Also, Martin being those extra couple of years older, has that more tank, the ability to get up the ground already. Where Rochelle's got to work on that, and the Crows have got some other options up there, or guys who have been in the system for that extra year or two. So I don't see there's going to be weeks where Rochelle's not going to touch the ball, and they might lay some tackles. I think he's very talented, but that's what a small forward does. It's as simple as that.
I agree. Moving on to Fremantle, you've got Brayshaw not getting any attention in this game, so 127, pretty standard there. If he doesn't get tagged, Brayshaw is an extremely good player that will just keep racking up the ball as he does as well. Interesting one. So this is hard to take. Obviously, Fremantle didn't have Darcy, they didn't have Fife, and there's obviously a few people missing from their team. The one thing I want to start with though is obviously Will Brodie, 224,000 was on track for looking like an 80 plus. I think he almost got scaled backwards a little bit. Spent 20 minutes on the last quarter on the bench. The concern with Brodie isn't his value in the team because Longmuir came out and said, there's so much stuff that his value to team. There's so much stuff people don't see. He's in and under, and the work he puts in is highly valued, and he's going to be a really important player for us. So he said that. And I think that's true. I think his role is there. Even with Fife back, I still think his role's there. But the issue is his time on the bench. And I think it was in the Amy series, he spent a large portion of one quarter or half or something or other on the bench. So it's a concern for me. Now, I don't know if that's a way for them to build him up to be able to, because he's playing midfield, so maybe he doesn't have the tank. So maybe they can build him up or do that sort of thing. But it is a concern. However, I'm still impressed with what he did enough and the coach likes him. So I think there's still opportunity for him to actually rack up when they sort of try and get a hold of a team. So we know Fremantle have a pretty soft draw in general. So when we have a look at who they have coming up, so obviously Saints this week at home, West Coast, who are still going to be quite depleted, then they play the Giants and Essendon, but then it kind of, actually, yeah, I guess it really opens up after that sort of round 8 mark. North, Suns, Collingwood, and that's probably sort of where you'd want to cash him out anyway. So um, I think it's an interesting one for me. Maybe with Fife in, it helps kind of free up a little bit, but I guess we'll see. He is possibly on the chopping block based on his low percentage time on ground. I'll use another week's data. Swizz.
Yeah, exactly. He had this that we knew this at the Suns anyway. That was one of the knocks on him. He played 65% on the weekend. He's time on ground for a midfielder is so low. He's got absolutely no tank, and he was the one. He was the other one that was in the. I was sort of debating between Rochelle, him, and Ward, but I just thought his role was much better. And because when he's on the field, he scores well. He does, as you said, everything right. But yeah, that tank's going to worry me. And the hope with if Fife comes in there and he doesn't have to bust as much, maybe he can just go in for small stints and able to spend a little bit more time up forward. And a couple of those weaker games, you might have to get on the end of a couple and kick some goals. So I think it'll be more a bit like that Caldwell role that we were talking about earlier. So yeah, he's definitely going to have some mid time, but with the amount of players that the Freo have back in there, and just with his time on ground percentage, I think they'll try to use him up a little bit more up forward and stuff. But I
Yep.
still think he's got the ability to still make you 150K.
Next one I'll touch on is Chapman, 275,000. Literally got away with bloody murder. Chapman was on not much at all, got scaled up a heap at the end of the game. And daylight robbery, I know quite a few players was just sitting there going, 80, I'll take that. Definitely some concern there. And we saw just even how important he is to the team, but also the different matchups he might get. So I think, yeah, if you have Chapman and you take the 80 and run, but I think there's still definitely some cause for concern. The only benefit is he scored 10 more than Luke Ryan. So another one of those intercepting kind of rebound defenders that didn't perform on the weekend. So I guess we will see whether there's a new style of player in vogue. Um, Hard to know as well because teams start to lock down a little bit more after the first month. So I guess we will see if the game slows up a little bit because I think last year there's so many like the plenty of scoring in the first few rounds. And I was like, oh, how exciting is this? And then it went to like bleak shit.
Yep.
So
Is that probably what
um,
happened again?
yeah, and because coaches start to get smart about how teams are trying to play, and then the best way to kind of stop that influence, and that's just the nature of the business. So
It's a little bit of
it'll be
that.
interesting to see.
The other thing I think affects at this time of the year is the hot weather. How many teams were blowing up so much because they haven't done they're still getting their fitness up and they can't run out the game. So there was a few games there, like that Crows, where that third quarter, Freo looked spent, absolutely spent, and then they had to, regenerate to go into that last quarter and that. But in Hawthorn and North, like those guys, like half the gun players were cramping and stuff. So that's when you can usually get a run on. In that situation where you come around 7 and 8 and you've got the body of work behind you, you can make those extra contests, you can get back in defence and keep the structure in. So I think that's what affects some of that scoring.
I agree. Let's move.